The front door slammed shut behind me, the sound sharp as a gunshot in the quiet dusk, leaving me standing on the porch with nothing but my keys and a half-dead phone. My hands shook as I gripped the railing, the cold metal biting into my palms, while Sarah's words echoed in my skull. I don't love you anymore. Get out. Her voice had been steady, not cruel, but it carved me open all the same. 10 years of marriage, and she'd tossed me out like a stranger, her eyes glinting with a resolve I didn't recognize. The air smelled of rain-soaked cedar, and the porch light flickered, casting jagged shadows across the lawn where we'd once danced under summer stars. I stood there, heart pounding, trying to make sense of a life that had unraveled in minutes. I should have seen it coming. The late nights at her gallery, the way she'd linger over her phone, her laughter brighter with someone else's texts. I'd told myself it was stress. Her art wasn't selling, the bills were piling up. I'd ignored the perfume on her scarf, a musky scent that wasn't hers, because love makes you blind, or maybe just a fool. Standing there, exiled from my own home, I felt the first spark of something darker than heartbreak, anger, curling like smoke in my chest. I drove to a motel off the highway, the kind with neon signs that buzz like dying flies. The room smelled of stale cigarettes and regret, the bed sagging under me as I replayed our last fight. You're suffocating me, Tom, she'd said last week, her voice tight as she rearranged her paintbrushes for the third time. I'd laughed it off, thinking it was just her artist's temperament flaring. Now alone with the hum of the motel's air conditioner, I saw it differently. Her words weren't an outburst, they were a warning. The next morning, I called her, hoping for answers, maybe even an apology. The phone rang until her voicemail kicked in, her voice bright and professional. This is Sarah, leave a message. I hung up, my throat tight. I tried again that evening, then the next day. Silence. On the third day she texted, don't come back. I'm done. The words hit like a punch, but it was the coldness that stung most. No explanation, no remorse. I sat on the motel bed, staring at the cracked ceiling, and something shifted. I wasn't just hurt. I was furious. I started digging. Not with a shovel, but with questions. I called our bank, pretending to check our joint account. The clerk's voice faltered when she mentioned a withdrawal. $5,000, transferred to an account I didn't recognize. When? I asked, my voice steady despite the tremor in my hands. 2 weeks ago, she said. I thanked her and hung up, my mind racing. Sarah had always been meticulous with money, so why hide this? I logged into our shared cloud storage, something I hadn't touched in years. There, buried in a folder labeled Gallery Receipts, was a photo, a man's arm around her waist, her head tilted against his shoulder, both of them laughing in a dimly lit bar. The timestamp was 3 months ago. I knew him. Daniel, her business partner. The guy who'd been at every gallery opening, always lingering too long, his hand brushing her elbow. I'd shaken it off, told myself it was professional. Now the memory of his smug grin burned. I scrolled further, finding emails, carefully worded, but laced with intimacy. Can't wait to see you tonight, he'd written. You're my muse, she'd replied. My stomach churned, not just from betrayal but from how easily I'd let it slide. I confronted her at the gallery that night. The place was her sanctuary, all white walls and soft lighting. Her paintings hung like confessions. She was alone, arranging a canvas, her hair loose and glowing under the spotlights. Tom, she said, startled, her brush clattering to the floor. What are you doing here? Who's Daniel? I asked, my voice low, dangerous. Her face paled, but she didn't flinch. He's a friend, she said too quickly. You're being paranoid. Am I? I held up my phone, the photo glaring between us. Her eyes flickered, and for a moment I saw guilt raw unguarded. Then she straightened, her voice cold. You shouldn't be snooping. It's over, Tom. Accept it. 10 years, Sarah. I said, my voice cracking. You owe me more than this. I owe you nothing, she snapped, stepping closer. You never saw me, not really. You loved the idea of me, not the mess I am. Her words stung, but they also rang true, and that hurt worse. I'd been so caught up in our routine, work, dinners, quiet nights, that I hadn't noticed her slipping away. I left, but not before noticing the lease agreement on her desk. The gallery space, her pride and joy, was in both our names. She'd forgotten that detail when she'd thrown me out. An idea took root, not out of spite, but from a need to reclaim something she couldn't take. Over the next week, I consulted a lawyer. The lease was airtight. My name gave me equal rights to the property. I didn't want to destroy her, but I needed her to feel the weight of what she'd done. I filed paperwork to terminate the lease, citing a clause about mutual consent. Since I no longer consented, the gallery would close unless she could buy me out. She couldn't. The bank account was drained, and Daniel, it turned out, wasn't the investor she'd claimed. When the notice arrived, she called me, her voice trembling with rage. "You can't do this, Tom. This is my life." I heard the panic, the same desperation I'd felt on that porch. "You made your choice," I said, my voice steady now. "You threw me out. This is just consequences." The gallery closed a month later. I drove by one last time, the for lease sign stark against the empty windows. Her paintings were gone, her sanctuary dismantled. I waited for satisfaction, but all I felt was hollow. Sarah had betrayed me, but I'd loved her mess, her chaos, her art. I'd torn down her world, legally, methodically, but it didn't rebuild mine. That night, I found a letter in my motel mailbox, her handwriting shaky. "I'm sorry, Tom. I was lost, and I hurt you to find myself. Daniel's gone. I don't expect forgiveness, but I need you to know I loved you, even when I failed you." I read it twice, then tore it up. The pieces scattered in the wind, like ashes of a life we'd both burned down.